Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Monday, April 20th, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, there are conflicting reports on whether Iran will participate in another round of peace talks with the U.S. in Islamabad. A robot at the humanoid robot half marathon in Beijing has beaten the human world record for that distance, and tens of thousands of protesters gathered near the Japanese parliament against the prime minister's attempt to revise Japan's pacifist constitution. In business, China has held its lending rate steady. In sports, the race for the Premier League title. In culture and entertainment, China's first National Reading Week has kicked off. Now checking the day's top stories. Chinese President Xi Jinping has expressed China's willingness at working with Saudi Arabia to deepen strategic mutual trust, enhance practical cooperation, expand exchanges at all levels, and play an exemplary role in China's relations with Arab countries. He has had a phone call with the Saudi Prime Minister. The two countries are marking 10 years since the establishment of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. On the situation in the Middle East and the Gulf region, President Xi stressed China's call for an immediate ceasefire and support for all efforts at restoring peace. He said maintaining navigation through the Strait of Hormuz is in the common interests of countries in the region and the international community. The president said China supports regional countries in building a shared community of good neighborliness, development, security, and cooperation, taking their future into their own hands and promoting long-term peace and stability in the region. Iran's foreign ministry says there's no plan for a second round of talks with Washington. However, reports suggest a member of Iran's Islamic parliament said Tehran has decided to continue negotiations. Iranian media said Tehran rejected taking part in fresh peace talks with the United States, citing what it called Washington's excessive demands in the naval blockade. Meanwhile, Iran's vowed to retaliate after American forces seized an Iranian-flagged cargo ship near the Strait of Hormuz. Tehran's denounced the move as armed maritime piracy. Walter Morris has more from Washington.
Hours after U.S. President Donald Trump said direct negotiations will resume this week, Tehran rejected the peace talks. According to state media reports, Iran will not participate in the discussions because of Washington's excessive demands, unrealistic expectations, and repeated contradictions. Sunday, the White House confirmed Vice President J.D. Vance would lead the U.S. delegation, along with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner. Last weekend, the marathon negotiations between the U.S. and Iran broke down over Iran's nuclear program. Sunday, Trump wrote on Truth Social that the U.S. is offering a fair and reasonable deal to end the war. He also repeated previous threats to target Iranian infrastructure, saying the U.S. will, quote, knock out every single power plant and bridge if Tehran doesn't agree to terms. Some military law experts say that could be a potential war crime. In an interview with Fox News, the U.S. Energy Secretary defended the president's statements.
The president's using every way he can to get leverage over the regime to bring this conflict to an end. He's a creative negotiator. He uses pressure in different ways. He uses uncertainty in different ways. And I think, as you've seen over the last 16 months, it generally leads to good results. I don't think we'll see any surprises here.
The ceasefire is set to end Wednesday. Iran closed the waterway again and fired on ships trying to get through. Then Sunday, Trump said the U.S. Navy has seized an Iranian cargo ship in the Gulf of Oman. Iran's Joint Military Command says the strait will remain under strict control of the armed forces as long as the U.S. blockade stays in place. According to reports from British military officials, Revolutionary Guard gunboats opened fire on a tanker and a projectile hit another container vessel Saturday. The strait has effectively been closed since the start of the conflict, leading to a global energy crisis. Trump imposed a blockade on Iranian ships coming through the strait in retaliation, and in a separate social media post, Trump said the U.S. Navy fired on an Iranian cargo ship and Marines took custody of the vessel. U.S. Central Command says 23 Iranian ships have been sent back since the U.S. blockade began.
That was Walter Morris on the situation in the Strait of Hormuz. The nuclear issue remains a sticking point in U.S.-Iran negotiations. The two countries are also at odds over the Strait of Hormuz and sanctions relief. Ehsan Kevani reports from Tehran.
Iran has a few demands. In fact, at the same time, the U.S. insists that Iran must eliminate its the enrichment program or halt it for at least 20 years. And most importantly, Iran must give out its more than 400 kilograms of 60% enriched uranium. They also urge Iran to stop supporting foreign groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon. These are the conditions that Iran will not accept easily. On the other side, Iran has its own demands from the United States, and that's why all the experts in Iran and analysts say that the gap between the United States and Iran's demands are very large.
That was Ahsan Kayvani reporting. Mediator Pakistan continues efforts to bring Washington and Tehran to the negotiating table. Pakistani Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif had a phone conversation with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian and reaffirmed commitment to advancing regional peace and security. Pakistan has placed its capital in a neighboring city on high security alert to prepare for the possible talks. Daniel Khan reports from Islamabad.
Here in Pakistan, preparations are still moving ahead regardless. Security has been significantly tightened in Islamabad, especially around the diplomatic enclave and likely venues with restricted access, checkpoints and heavy deployment of law enforcement and paramilitary forces. But the key point is this, Pakistan is preparing for talks to happen. Pakistan's concern is rooted in both geography and stakes. This conflict is unfolding in a region that directly affects Pakistan's economic and security environment, particularly through the Strait of Hormuz, which is critical for global energy supplies. Now, any escalation there has immediate ripple effects, including rising oil prices and regional instability. And beyond that, Pakistan has positioned itself as a rare channel of communication between Washington and Tehran. It hosted the first round of talks and helped broker the current ceasefire. So there's a reputational and diplomatic stake in preventing that process from collapsing. Now, there's also a broader concern about spillover, whether that's economic pressure, security risks, or instability spreading across the region. Now, experts here say that for Pakistan, this isn't just about facilitating talks. It's about containing a crisis that could very quickly move closer to home.
That was Daniel Khan reporting from Pakistan. China says since a window for peace is open, efforts should be made to create conditions for ending the war as soon as possible. The Foreign Ministry says China supports maintaining the momentum in the ceasefire and negotiations. A spokesperson for the ministry says China will continue to work under President Xi Jinping's four-point proposal and promote de-escalation. Tensions are also high in the Red Sea, with the U.S. military presence and continued threats by Yemen's Houthis. We spoke with the diplomatic advisor to the president of the Supreme Political Council in Sana'a. Ambassador Abd al-Ilah Hajar shared Yemen's options between de-escalation and confrontation.
The
deployment in the Red Sea, just like the deployment in the Strait of Hormuz, is a threat to international peace and security, given that there is no justification and no military operations in the Red Sea that require the presence of these American destroyers. It is also considered a violation of international laws and international maritime law, and it is a threat to the countries bordering the Red Sea, including Yemen. These are reckless adventures, and their impact is not limited to the countries of the region, but also affects the United States and international peace and security. We are ready for all possibilities, and any escalation related to Lebanon, Iran, or the Arab region Yemen will be present with all its strength.
The advisor added that Yemen supports the safety of navigation routes in the Red Sea and the Strait of Hormuz, but warned of a confrontation against military maritime activity aimed at aggression. Thousands of people are returning home as a ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel seems to be holding. Many are finding the living conditions difficult, though. Adel Al-Marouki reports from southern Lebanon.
When the ceasefire between Lebanon and Israel was announced, thousands of displaced citizens rushed back to their homes in celebration. For many of them, joy turned to shock as soon as they saw what they left behind. Jamal al-Ash'ar is a baker. He has just returned to Qana with his wife and 5 kids.
I thought I would settle in my home and reopen my bakery, but unfortunately there is no home and no bakery. I am disappointed. I didn't know the situation. I thought it was a small strike next to me and that my house would be fine. Now there is nothing left in my house. There are no windows. The reception is gone. The bedrooms are gone too.
Standing next to the balcony of his apartment, he explains how confused he is about planning his future.
I will now wait to see if the ceasefire holds. After that, I will see what happens. I can't repair and refurbish only for something to happen again. That won't work. I lost my savings and I am in debt now. In northern Lebanon, the cost of living is high. Inflation is high. Fuel is more expensive. There is not much to be done about it. When you get your family used to a certain quality of living, you can't change it, no matter how much you try. When a young child asks for something, you can't say no.
Fatma Qasim lives across the street from another destroyed building in Shahabiyah. The windows were blown away.
We slept anyway. What else could we do? We're used to wars keeping us awake. We also had to clean the house. There was a lot of dust, glass and rocks. We even found several fragments of missiles. At first, I was giggling and smiling to myself. Although I am sad about what happened to the house, I was still happy that I reached my home. It's my property. No matter what they do to us, we will come back.
She takes care of her 3 children, a sick mother, and her sister's family of 4. Her sister tried to go back but learned that Israeli troops remained near her town. All 9 of them are planning to look for someplace else to live, probably back at a shelter.
There are no services, no electricity, no generators, no internet, no water. Nothing gets here. Even vegetables, there aren't any. I went to a kiosk. They didn't have anything. This entire neighborhood is cut off from life. The gallon of water I have, if we finish it, I can't replace it. There are no pharmacies.
The mountains of Lebanon are welcoming residents for the first time since early March. They've been under heavy Israeli bombardment. The trip back home for many people is turning out to be a gamble, a future filled with unanswered questions.
That was Adel El-Marouki in Lebanon. Coming up, a humanoid robot has beaten the human half-marathon world record.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
At 12 minutes past the hour, the winner of the humanoid robot half marathon in Beijing has beaten the human world record. Sunday's race drew more than 100 teams, nearly 5 times the size of the inaugural event last year. Ju Mandan has details.
At the second edition of the humanoid robot half marathon in Beijing's E-Town, Honor's autonomous navigation robot Lightning crossed the finish line first in a time of 50 minutes and 26 seconds, breaking the human world record of 57 minutes and 20 seconds.
I credit, first of all, the significant technical accumulation built by the whole Honor team in China, and second, the way we all pulled together as one. Throughout the process, we had people from various Honor departments involved: hardware, communications, mechanical structure, and so on. We worked as one, overcame the hurdles, and that's the only way we made this happen.
At 7:30 a.m., humanoid robots and human runners set off simultaneously from the starting line, safely separated by a barrier, to compete together in the 21.0975-kilometer half marathon. Last year, the winning time was 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 42 seconds. This year, Honor shaved more than an hour and a half off that record.
Aiming for faster, stronger, and try not to fall over, the upgraded competition has over 100 teams participating, and 40% of them are using autonomous navigation, which means the robots are entirely on their own.
The autonomous robots need to have real-time perception, directing themselves, making decisions, and reacting in mere milliseconds. And because this is a half marathon, it's a brutal test of battery life and energy management. And for the human runners, running alongside the robots makes for a very special experience.
Running alongside the robots, I could feel that they went by really fast. I felt the power of technology. This technology will benefit our lives immensely. At the same time, we need to learn from these robots.
This is definitely not a race for toys, and with robots now able to run faster than actual people over 21 kilometers, they continue to prove themselves more capable and energy efficient in working alongside humans.
That was Ju Mandan reporting. Namibia's Minister of International Relations and Trade has discussed multilateralism and free trade with Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And speaking with CGTN's Gao Chunya, Selma Ashipala Musavi expressed gratitude for Beijing's zero-tariff policy under the China-Africa Cooperation Forum. She says it provides opportunities for Namibia's value-added production and foreign trade.
Starting May the 1st of this year, China is going to implement zero tariff treatment to all 53 African countries with diplomatic ties. Of course, Namibia included. So what opportunities do you see when it comes to Namibia's exports and when it comes to value addition?
You know, first I need to express Namibia's thanks and appreciation to the government of the People's Republic of China, because I think the gesture from China to extend a zero-tariff measure regime to African countries is a direct product of the Forum of China-Africa Cooperation, FOCAC. So we are very happy about that, and we welcome that. How Namibia and other African countries, but let me confine this to Namibia, is going to benefit is manifold. First, it will build confidence between our two countries and also our two private sectors, because non-tariff measures are a confidence-building measure. Number two, I think it will generate industrialization and optimize it and enhance it in order for us to gain more access to the Chinese market. I think it will accelerate the industrialization process in our country and also Africa in general. For Namibia, we are a coastal state. All of our neighbors who do not have access to the sea depends on our port. So it means more businesses for the Walvis Bay port, because the cargo has to go through our port. And I think it will be really a way of what Africa has been talking when we say the Africa we want. Yes, we are endowed with resources, but we do not want to remain a source of raw materials. We want to add value to our products, being it minerals or agricultural, so that we can become more relevant to the Chinese economy, but also to the global economy. So we are looking at it from that perspective, and I think it's a very welcome measure.
That was Namibia's trade minister on gaining access to the Chinese and world markets. Monday marks Chinese Language Day. April 20th was chosen for the occasion to honor Zhang Jie, a legendary figure believed to have invented Chinese characters. The day highlights the rich cultural and historical contributions of the Chinese language, one of the 6 official languages of the United Nations. It aims to promote multilingualism and cultural diversity within the organization and among its member states. Reports show that Chinese has been included in the national education systems of 90 countries, with nearly 210 million foreigners learning or using the language. Faculty and students from countries including Poland and Zambia have shared their thoughts on the status and influence of the Chinese language.
There are more and more people learning Chinese. I think China is becoming interesting for a lot of young people as far as technology is concerned, as far as Chinese soft power. So I think having an International Chinese Language Day is a useful event to bring about Chinese events, Chinese cultural events, so that young people feel learning Chinese is very attractive, not only as far as learning the language is concerned, but also as far as understanding the culture is concerned.
Different traditional clothing, like what I'm wearing, for instance, also a type of traditional clothing. And I really enjoy it because it's so diverse, which reminds me of like Zambian culture. So I see a very huge bridge. There's a very huge link between us.
Ethiopia also recently held activities to mark Chinese Language Day. Organizers say the celebration reinforces the African country's cultural ties with China. More Indian students are turning their attention to China as a destination to study science and technology. They're attending Chinese universities over some traditional choices in Canada, the US, and the UK. Ravinder Bawa finds out why.
India, home to one of the world's youngest populations, is witnessing a growing number of students heading overseas in search of quality education and stronger career prospects. Naresh Patra, a researcher in astrophysics at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, chose to study in China for a range of reasons.
First thing, the education system here is very good and the expenses is too low. And second point, you will get good exposure about like machine learning and AI. And third point, you will get jobs immediately after passing through this university.
There has been a noticeable surge in inquiries from Indian students for courses in engineering and artificial intelligence. To attract more international applicants, Chinese universities have ramped up investment in world-class infrastructure, including advanced laboratories, while expanding scholarship offerings across a wide range of disciplines. Akshay Bhamri is among those who secured such a scholarship, supporting his research in traditional medicine. He describes his academic experience in China as highly professional and well-structured.
In different departments, there are enough resources to do that. And even in libraries, whatever you need is provided immediately to you. So this kind of environment for a researcher, for a student, be it undergrad or PhD student, is very helpful when they want to do some kind of research or some kind of understanding to get that what they want immediately so that they can excel in their work.
Despite having universities ranked among the world's top 100, awareness of their academic strengths remains limited in India. Experts say greater outreach and engagement are needed to ensure Indian students can better access and benefit from these institutions.
It would be more possible if there is a higher level, like not just on people-to-people level, but we see the authorities from both the sides interact and there are university-to-university interactions. In that case, there would be a lot of confidence building.
Since 2024, China and India have increased collaborations across the board. Both governments have resumed the mechanism for cultural and academic exchanges to rebuild trust.
That was Ravinder Bawa on cooperation in education between China and India. Coming up, tens of thousands of protesters have taken to the streets in Tokyo.
Discover the realities and responses to our changing climate with Climate Watch. Uncover critical issues such as the Masai Mara's disrupted wildebeest migration and the drop in the Panama Canal's water levels. Delve into solutions for a sustainable future. Tune in to Climate Watch on your favorite podcast platform. Become more eco-conscious and take action to protect our planet.
At 22 past the hour, tens of thousands of Japanese people have gathered near the parliament buildings in Tokyo in protest of Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's push to revise the country's pacifist constitution. Organizers put the crowd at around 36,000. Protesters held signs reading "No to War," and Takaichi stepped down, demanding protection of Article 9, which renounces war and prohibits Japan from maintaining military forces.
It took great effort to establish the pacifist constitution and also the 3 principles on arms exports. But now, our tax money is being used to export lethal weapons around the world. I truly hope this can be stopped.
I hope the Takaichi administration will stop its military expansion. Defense spending keeps increasing, and this year's budget is rising again. If this continues, I believe it will eventually lead to war. That's why I want these actions to be halted.
The pacifist constitution was created to ensure that war would never happen again. I believe it was something people in the past fought hard to build for the future. So those of us living in Japan today must cherish it with the determination to never repeat the mistakes of history.
Takaichi and right-wing forces have long sought to revise Article 9 of the Constitution. At a recent party convention, Takaichi declared that the time has come for constitutional reform, triggering widespread concern and criticism. China says preventing the resurrection of militarism in Japan is Japan's due obligation and the unwavering will of the international community. A spokesperson of the Foreign Ministry said China urges Japan to learn from history, abide by its international obligations, and follow a path of peaceful development. The spokesperson noted that plans to revise the constitution have sparked doubts and opposition in Japan, its Asian neighbors, and the international community. He said Japan's not thoroughly reflected on its history of aggression, while some forces are attempting to whitewash its wartime crimes and accelerate remilitarization. The spokesperson said it's fostered a new form of militarism that threatens regional peace and stability. He warned the international community to remain highly vigilant. U.S. police say a gunman opened fire in 2 houses in Louisiana early Sunday and killed 8 children. 7 were his own. He also wounded their mother. The suspect died after a police pursuit. The shooting in Shreveport was the deadliest in the United States in more than 2 years. Diego Laje spoke with Mayor Tom Arsenault about the incident and its effects on the community.
Sir, you went to the scene recently. Could you give us a sense of what it was like?
When I got the call, I wanted to be here, and so I got an initial debriefing, which has pretty much been what I'm aware of now. Then I left, and then I came back just a little while ago, and I've been talking to neighbors and family members. I spoke to the father of one of them and sisters of the others.
What will you do tomorrow to stop incidents like these?
Well, I think what we have to do is simply make domestic violence an easier thing to report and to provide support for people. That's very difficult. Domestic violence incidents happen at the spur of the moment. So additional patrols and those kinds of things are not likely to result in it. We have been working to develop a comprehensive plan. The sheriff took part of that plan to heart and has opened what will become a comprehensive domestic violence center, which is a great idea, and we applaud the sheriff for doing that. We'll be in full cooperation with that.
Some U.S. media are reporting a name for the attacker, and he's identified as a vet who already apparently, as media report, had a run-in with the law for possession of a firearm and using it apparently close to an educational establishment.
That's what I understand, about 7 years ago.
Yes. How will that factor in your next domestic violence policy? Were you following this individual?
I doubt that we were following this particular individual because we have lots of people in that category, and we do not follow them all. What we really need to make sure of is that we are providing veteran services, which we have a lot of in the city of Shreveport, and this one apparently slipped through the cracks.
That was the mayor of Shreveport speaking after a mass shooting in the city. Partial results show a landslide victory for the Progressive Bulgaria coalition. Former President Rumen Radev leads that coalition. The country's Central Election Commission published the results on its website. The commission's counted around 92% of the votes. The Progressive Bulgaria coalition has won around 44%. An earthquake with a revised magnitude of 7.5 has jolted Japan's northeast coast. The Japan Meteorological Agency warned of a tsunami as high as 3 meters in Iwate Prefecture and parts of Hokkaido. The tremor had an epicenter in the Pacific Ocean and was 10 kilometers deep. The quake measured an upper 5 on Japan's seismic intensity scale. That's strong enough to make it difficult for people to move around. We're at 29 past the hour. Beijing down to 8 degrees this evening. Sunny conditions and 25 degrees on Tuesday. Shanghai will be overcast and down to 13, followed by moderate rainfall and 18. Chongqing will see some rain overnight and through tomorrow, a low of 18, a high of 20. Nanchang's getting moderate rainfall, becoming heavy tomorrow, a low of 18, a high of 21. Lhasa will be overcast overnight and tomorrow, a low of 5 and a high of 18. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's getting overcast skies and 19 overnight, then overcast and 33. Vientiane will see a light rainfall and 25 degrees, followed by cloudy skies and 36. Phnom Penh will be getting a light rainfall tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 36 degrees. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, there are conflicting reports on whether Iran will participate in another round of peace talks with the U.S. in Islamabad. A robot at the humanoid robot half marathon in Beijing has beaten the human world record for that distance. And tens of thousands of protesters gathered near the Japanese parliament against the prime minister's attempt to revise Japan's pacifist constitution. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
From the refreshing cup of tea that starts your morning to the paper that you write on, the roots of many familiar parts of modern life can be traced back to ancient ideas. Join us on Made in Ancient China and discover how ideas born millennia ago became some of the world's greatest treasures. Made in Ancient China brings you stories of human ambition, inspiration, and connection. Now available on all major podcast platforms.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers. From the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers. Even the solid ground beneath our feet. Right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Monday. Still to come. In business, China has held its lending rate steady. In sports, the race for the Premier League title. In culture and entertainment, China's first National Reading Week has kicked off. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. Now checking the day's headlines, Chinese President Xi Jinping has expressed China's willingness at working with Saudi Arabia to deepen strategic mutual trust, enhance practical cooperation, expand exchanges at all levels, and play an exemplary role in China's relations with Arab countries. He has had a phone call with the Saudi Prime Minister. The two countries are marking 10 years since the establishment of the Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. On the situation in the Middle East and the Gulf region, President Xi stressed China's call for an immediate ceasefire and support for all efforts at restoring peace. He said maintaining navigation through the Strait of Hormuz is in the common interests of countries in the region and the international community. The president said China supports regional countries in building a shared community of good neighborliness, development, security, and cooperation, taking their future into their own hands and promoting long-term peace and stability in the region. China's expressed concerns over the U.S. interception of a vessel after media reports said the U.S. had seized an Iranian cargo ship heading towards an Iranian port. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Gua Jiakun called on all parties to act responsibly and adhere to the ceasefire agreement. Gua urged them to avoid escalating the conflict or intensifying tensions. He also said they should provide conditions for restoring normal passage through the waterway. Iran's foreign ministry says Tehran does not plan to participate in a second round of peace talks with the United States. Media cited Washington's excessive demands, unrealistic expectations, frequent contradictory positions, and an ongoing naval blockade. It dismissed reports of upcoming talks in Islamabad as false, describing them as part of a U.S. media blame game. The agency said there is currently no bright prospect for fruitful negotiations. The Israeli military's released a map of a buffer zone it's establishing in southern Lebanon. The area extends several kilometers inside Lebanese territory from Lebanon's Mediterranean waters to the Mount Hermon area near the Syrian border. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel will not withdraw its troops. Defense Minister Israel Katz says Israel will level houses and kill anyone it deems a Hezbollah member. 5 divisions and naval forces are currently operating in Lebanese territory. Lebanon and Syria have not accepted the move. Despite a recent ceasefire, Israeli forces intensified military operations on Sunday, demolishing homes and blocking roads. Washington's announced a 10-day ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah just days ago. Police in Louisiana say a gunman killed 7 of his own children and another child early Sunday. The attacks began before sunrise in a Shreveport neighborhood. A suspect, Shamar Elkins, allegedly first shot the children's mother, then killed 8 children ranging in age from 1 to around 12 years old. Elkins died after police pursuit. Shreveport police spokesperson Chris Bordelon says the shooting was a domestic incident.
We're still working on relationships and whose parents are whose, but it's a very hectic scene. There's a lot to investigate, a lot to unpack, and we want to do the best we can to come up with a clear timeline, a clear reasoning, even though cases like this, the reasoning will never be fully understood. And it's something that's a tragedy in our community, and we're going to do the best we can to support those individuals involved and around and do the best we can and move forward.
The suspect shot a woman at one home, then drove to another location where he carried out the killings. After the shootings, Elkins carjacked a vehicle at gunpoint. Officers fired at him during that chase. Police had arrested Elkins in 2019 on a firearms charge but had no record of domestic violence issues. British police are investigating whether Iranian proxies carried out a series of arson attacks on Jewish sites in London. Counter-terror officers are probing fires at synagogues, other Jewish-linked locations, and a Persian-language media company. Deputy Assistant Commissioner Vicky Evans with the Metropolitan Police says a specialized team is reviewing all evidence.
Counter-terrorism policing is leading all of the investigations into these incidents. And that means we have a team of experienced detectives looking across all of the evidence that is being gathered. The incidents are similar in nature. They have been arsons targeting Israeli and Jewish premises within London.
No one's been injured in the blazes. The latest one caused minor damage at a North London synagogue on Saturday night. A group calling itself Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyah claimed responsibility online. Police noted reports that the group may have links to Iran. The same group has claimed synagogue attacks in Belgium and the Netherlands. Police have increased uniformed and plainclothes officers in northwest London. Several suspects ranging from teens to people in their 40s have been arrested and charged. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in business, China's held its lending rate steady.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past now. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed higher on Monday. The Shanghai Composite was up nearly 0.8%. The Shenzhen Component gained around 0.6. Navigation and aerospace equipment shares were among the top gainers. In Hong Kong, the Hang Seng Index climbed almost 0.8%. Japan's Nikkei increased over 0.7. China's one-year loan prime rate came in at 3% on Monday, unchanged from the previous month. The over 5-year LPR, on which many lenders base their mortgage rates, also remained unchanged from the previous reading of 3.5%. LPRs reflect the level of financing costs for households and businesses. Interest rates on newly issued loans in China have remained relatively low. In March, the weighted average interest rate for new corporate loans was around 3.1%, down about 25 basis points lower than a year earlier. The weighted average interest rate for new personal housing loans was also 3.1%, 6 basis points lower than the same period last year. Humanoid robots developed by Chinese company Honor have swept the top 3 places at the Beijing E-Town Half Marathon. Over 100 robots competed in the 21-kilometer race, with 40 in the autonomous navigation category and 62 in the remote control category. The 3 podium finishers all came from the autonomous category. This year's Humanoid Robot Half Marathon has built a high-end international exchange platform. The event attracted teams from overseas, including universities and laboratories from Germany, France, and Brazil. For more, Lily Liu spoke with Chen Jiehe, Chief Investment Officer at Novum Arcade Technologies.
So I had been watching this humanoid robot marathon game since last year. Last year, we still saw some clumsy, stumbling movements, and many of those robots actually dropped out of the race in the middle. But this year, the improvement is just tremendous. What do you think has been driving this rapid progress?
For the humanoid robots to win the competition in this long-distance running, they just have to do a lot of specialized designing. We can see this time the champion has been won by the company called Honor. And this company was not a company that was famous for making humanoid robots in the past, but it was famous for making mobile phones. And this time it has been investing quite a lot of money into researching humanoid robots. And these robots are basically aiming at winning a running competition. So we can see that for the whole humanoid robot to develop, a lot of specialized investment is required. We have to set the target first. We have to know what these robots will be used for, and then we can design the special robot for the special purposes. And like this time, the purpose is running a marathon.
Indeed, astonishing speed that is. Why has China been able to build a complete industrial chain advantage in robot making in just a few years?
Well, this is a very good question. Yes, China's humanoid robots have been developed at a very quick speed in the past few years. And if you look at the overall scale of China's industry and innovation, humanoid robots is just a very small part in it. If we count the overall research input that China's industry has been putting into the humanoid robots, we can see that this is a very small amount compared with the overall research cost that China's high-tech companies have made. This tells us about the large scale and high potential of China's high-tech industry, that with any direction that is needing research and technical breakthrough, China's industries and companies can make adequate amount of investment and research. This can be conducted in just a few years' time. So behind this rapid growth of China's humanoid robot industry is a large high-tech industry that China is possessing, which has a huge potential of making new researches.
That was Chief Investment Officer Chen Jiehe at Novum Arcade Technologies talking about China's robot industry. China's customs officials say mechanical and electrical products made up over 60% of exports in the first quarter. Robots, a fast-growing segment, have gone to more than 140 countries and regions. Han Lung has more.
Each of these robotic dogs is equipped with 30 movable joints, can carry up to 5 kilograms, and operate for around 2 hours. They can move across bushes, gravel, and slopes, reaching places that are difficult for humans. With built-in lighting, they're already being used for security patrols in industrial parks and residential compounds. These robotic dogs are part of a growing wave of Chinese robots being exported worldwide. Alongside them, these humanoid robots stands about 1.67 meters tall and can communicate in 11 languages, designed to serve servers across different countries and regions.
We have exported our humanoid robots and robotic dogs to more than 30 countries and regions. In Europe, for example, we've delivered products in bulk to countries like the UK, Poland, and Italy. Mass delivery shows that the technology has reached a certain level of maturity.
China is now the world's largest producer of robots. A decade ago, there were only 5 custom categories for robots export in China. Today, that number has grown to 13, covering new segments such as collaborative robots, intelligent bionic robots, and cleaning robots. As application expands, robots are increasingly moving from the lab to the factory floor. On production lines, they're already working alongside humans. In car manufacturing, for example, a single vehicle can require around 2,000 welding points, many of them completed by 6-axis industrial robots. In this factory, one 6-axis industrial robot rolls off the production line every 12 minutes.
The global expansion of Chinese robots is essentially an extension of the country's manufacturing capability. Behind it is the rise of a complete industrial chain. Over the past decade, we've seen localization move step by step, from core components to key parts and even to the materials used. It's a gradual but comprehensive upgrade across the entire supply chain.
From service applications to industrial production, China's robotic industry is expanding into global markets. Made-in-China robots are now increasingly deployed and trusted worldwide.
That was Han Lung reporting. China's top economic regulators released its second batch of major projects for this year, focusing on implementing key national strategies and building security capacity in critical areas. The National Development and Reform Commissions also allocated more than 217 billion yuan, nearly $32 billion in Treasury bonds, to support over 330 key projects. The projects span several major areas, including artificial intelligence, urban underground pipeline renovation, and transport infrastructure along the Yangtze River Economic Belt. Combined with the first batch of funding, the total investment for these projects has now exceeded 600 billion yuan, and that accounts for 76% of the full year earmarked amount. The Commission says it'll continue to improve investment and financing, speed up the implementation of so-called soft infrastructure measures, and strengthen oversight of central investment funds. China's electricity usage reached more than 2.5 trillion kilowatt hours in the first quarter of the year. That's up 5.2%. A breakdown of the data by the National Energy Administration shows robust growth across various sectors. Primary industries saw a 7.1% increase, bringing the total to 33.6 billion kilowatt hours. Secondary industries used around 1.6 trillion kilowatt hours. That's up 4.7% from a year ago. The high-end and equipment manufacturing industry posted particularly strong growth, increasing 8.6%. Tertiary industries recorded 8.1% growth, surpassing 483 billion kilowatt hours. The battery charging and swapping service sector used 37.6 billion kilowatt hours, surging nearly 54%. And this reflects the rapid adoption of electric vehicles nationwide. The internet data service sector used almost 23 billion kilowatt hours, up 44%. In March alone, electricity use reached nearly 860 billion kilowatt hours, up 3.5%. Middle Eastern buyers at the just concluded first phase of the 139th Canton Fair say they've made the trip to buy products and pursue cooperation opportunities. A Saudi buyer traveled to source building materials, while a Dubai purchaser who visits China 3 times a year says he's looking to seek stable partnerships in uncertain times. Despite the disruptions in the Middle East, the continued presence of Middle Eastern buyers at the Canton Fair underscores a shared commitment to maintaining trade flows. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Now, coming up in sports, the race for the Premier League title.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past. And with sports now, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. We begin with football. Manchester City turned the tide of the Premier League title race in their favour by beating Arsenal 2-1 at Etihad Stadium. The Gunners now lead by just 3 points, with City having the game in hand. City is now the strong favourite to claim a 5th Premier League title in 6 years, and Pep Guardiola 7th as manager.
That game give us hopes, that's all. But what I said to the guys after the game, so enjoy the moment, but don't lose the focus right now, because we had the last 3-4 weeks, long weeks now. I know the message will be, but continue to impress the quality for the opponent. So they are really, really good.
Ryan Cherki opened the scoring in the 16th minute, weaving past Arsenal's defence to score. But the lead was short-lived as Kai Havertz pressed the City goalkeeper into a mistake, deflecting an attempted clearance into an empty net. Erling Haaland put City back in front in the 65th minute, restoring momentum for the home side. Bayern Munich has secured their 35th Bundesliga title with a 4-2 victory over Stuttgart at home. Top scorer Harry Kane netted his 32nd goal of the season after coming on as a second-half substitute. His goal helped Bayern extend their lead to 15 points over second-placed Borussia Dortmund with 4 games to spare. Bayern's only league defeat this season came in January against Augsburg, and they have just registered 4 draws. They've also set a new record with 109 goals scored. Already winners of the Super Cup in August against Stuttgart, the Bavarians will face Bayer Leverkusen in the German Cup semi-final on Wednesday. The Sioux Super League, an amateur football tournament in the eastern Chinese province of Jiangsu, has captured the nation's attention, drawing packed stadiums. Over the weekend, more than 28,000 fans witnessed Suqian's 2-0 victory over Nanjing. The league's popularity underscores Jiangsu's economic strength, with all 13 cities ranked among China's top 100 by GDP, fueling the fierce 13 Brothers rivalry. Beach handball player Shen Ping and 3x3 basketball player Yan Peng will serve as flag bearers of the Chinese delegation at Asian Beach Games that will open on Wednesday. The Games in Sanya will be the first multi-sport event in Hainan province since special customs operations began across the Hainan Free Trade Port. 171 Chinese athletes are competing in 60 events across 13 sports. Now on to motorcycle racing. Philipp Ottel has secured his first ever Supersport World Championship victory in dramatic fashion, winning a red-flagged race 2 at the TT Circuit Assen in the Netherlands. Valentin Debisi, representing Chinese team ZX Motor Factory Evan Bros Racing, finished in 7th place. Manager Zhang Xue noted the fierce competition in motorcycle racing.
We have confirmed that our bikes are in the same condition as they were in the previous round. What happened in race 2 is simply part of high-speed competition where a rider's performance can be just as decisive as the machinery itself. Some riders prefer certain types of circuits, while others favor a different kind of track, and that can make a difference. So can the weather, unless you have a clear mechanical edge. But in this category, as we all know, that kind of advantage doesn't exist. At most, the performance gap is only around 1 to 2%.
The race was held in challenging mixed conditions, with riders opting for slick tires despite a wet, windy track. As the surface dried, a tightly packed lead group emerged, with several contenders separated by less than a second early on. Albert Arenas claimed the second, marking his 4th podium in the first 3 rounds of the season, while Ken Onku secured 3rd, earning his first top 3 finish of 2026. And finally, in the first round of the Western Conference NBA playoffs, the Oklahoma City Thunder began their title defense with a commanding 119-84 victory over the Phoenix Suns. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander scored 25 points, marking 15 of 17 free throws, despite hitting just 5 of 18 field goals. He set out in fourth quarter.
Now this team's going to get better throughout the series. It's who they are. It's who they've been all year. They have really good players. Well coached, play really hard, play the right way, so we have to be ready to get better as well and expect a better team on the other end.
This marks the 3rd consecutive year the Thunder earned the top seed and had to wait for their first-round opponent after the play-in tournament. In other action, the San Antonio Spurs defeated the Portland Trail Blazers 111-98. Victor Wembanyama started in his playoff debut with 35 points.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture and entertainment, China's first National Reading Week has kicked off.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
52 past the hour. In culture and entertainment, the first National Reading Week has kicked off in China. The latest National Reading Survey reveals that in 2025, the adult reading rate reached 82.3%, with an average of 8.4 books per person, including print and ebooks, showing a slight increase from last year. Among minors, the reading rate stood at around 87%, with nearly 76% engaging in digital reading. Also, 79% of adults are reading on mobile phones, and more people are turning to audiobooks and video content. The 6th Chinese solar term, grain rain, falls on Monday, marking the final chapter of spring. The term celebrates the life-giving power of rain, a crucial time when crops flourish. A cherished custom during great rain is tea picking, as farmers believe the tea leaves plucked during this period possess unique vitality. Families also observe walking grain rain, a tradition of spring strolls to absorb nature's fresh energy for health and harmony. The 3rd Orchid Awards are now accepting global submissions to recognize foreign individuals and organizations committed to sharing Chinese culture and promoting cross-civilization exchanges. Caroline Wu has more.
The awards are designed to honor foreign individuals and organizations that help share Chinese culture and connect different civilizations.
Stuart Wiggin, a British content creator and winner of the 2nd Orchid Awards, shares his insights on bridging cultures through storytelling.
Receiving an Orchid Award hasn't really changed the way that I tell China stories, or stories about China, I should say. It's more so given me a greater sense of responsibility, so that when I make a video now, I pay more attention to, am I helping increase understanding or between cultures here? So I'll probably be a bit more careful. But it's something that I think about more now after receiving this award. It's something that I put more significance upon.
What did you submit last year?
It's all the work that I've done. Trying to show people different sides of China they wouldn't normally see, show people very authentic shots of China.
By China International Communications Group, the third Orchid Awards accept global entries until May 15th. Judge Franco Amadei shares his key criteria for selecting winners.
What do you value most when judging candidates?
In my opinion, one of the things that can a little bit more easily differentiate these top quality candidates is their influence. One is to actually promote other people following this route. How can we get the maximization of their efforts? And from this point of view, I think this is also good for them, because they also were contributing international, let's say, exchange, culture, civilization exchange. Yeah. They have this kind of consciousness.
The awards demonstrate China's open and friendly approach to international cultural exchanges and serve as a platform to enhance mutual understanding between different civilizations.
That was Caroline Wu reporting. The Devil Wears Prada 2 will premiere in China by the end of the month, ahead of its release in North America. Stars Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway have arrived in Shanghai to promote the film. Streep, whose character is loosely based on Vogue editor Anna Wintour, says their on-screen dynamic has blossomed into a real-life friendship. Hathaway highlights the enduring optimism of her character, Andy Sachs. The original film was a global box office success and earned 2 Academy Award nominations. American artist Augustina Droz will showcase her latest exhibition in Beijing this weekend, blending Chinese and Western cultures. The Surrealist exhibit features nearly 50 of Droz's recent works, including 38 pieces incorporating embroidery. Droz describes this dreamy wander as a spiritual journey exploring love, growth, and cultural integration. A recipient of numerous prestigious awards, Droz has been named Distinguished Art Envoy at the U.S. Embassy's American Center. In a celebration of one of China's most beloved characters, the Monkey King will take place in Henan Province next month. The China Monkey Mountain Monkey King competition is at Wulongkou Scenic Spot, home to the world's northernmost wild macaque population. We're at 57 past, Beijing down to 8 degrees this evening. It's sunny and 25 on Tuesday. Shanghai will be overcast and down to 13, followed by moderate rainfall in 18. Chongqing's getting some rainfall overnight and through tomorrow with a low of 18, a high of just 20. Nanchang will see moderate rainfall this evening. It's down to 18. That rain's heavier on Tuesday. The high is 21. Lhasa will be overcast tonight and tomorrow. A low of +5, the high is 18. And elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's overcast with a low of 19 this evening. It's overcast and 33 on Tuesday. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, there are conflicting reports on whether Iran will participate in another round of peace talks with the U.S. in Islamabad. And a robot at the Humanoid Robot Half Marathon in Beijing has beaten the human world record for that distance. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the Yellow River in his eyes.
The Yellow River is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio